I'm sitting here with Domenic Davis.
What's crack-a-lacking?
What's happening, man? Beyond the music. So you are a well-known, and I'll say it, famous bass player.
Oh, well known, man. Those are.
Yeah. Come on, man. Everybody knows Dom, man. But so beyond the music, there's an aspect of you that people might not know.
Right.
Which is besides being pimping. No, I'm just no, you're
blush over here, man.
No, you're a comic book guy.
Yeah, man. I love comic books, cartoons.
DC, Marvel, or just kind of everything.
Kind of everything. It really depends. I mean, once you kind of mature your taste in like the nerd realms, it can kind of get really in depth. So for example, for superhero stuff.
Okay.
For reading, DC, man. DC.
Okay.
I feel like the writing for DC. I mean, all these guys have like different runs in both realms, anyways. But like the old school like Green Lantern stuff is really good, man.
Okay.
Obviously the Dark Knight stuff for Batman, stuff like that Dark Knight realm of Batman, like Frank Miller kind of created that. That guy actually used to write for Marvel. He wrote a pretty badass Daredevil run.
Really?
In Marvel, yeah. And that was kind of like the precursor for like the Dark Knight stuff that we have now. Like so Frank Miller like wrote that stuff after the Daredevil run. It was like, so I guess a little tidbit, but yeah, man. Like so for superhero stuff, definitely DC for reading purposes. When you watch stuff, like I feel like the animated things are. Marvel just usually has kind of an edge on that. I don't know why.
Is it maybe the more money or something, or
I don't
like more money? Like I've seen obviously some Marvel movies, right? I'm a huge Spider-Man person.
Right.
I love Spider-Man.
He's my favorite.
Oh really?
Literally,
Me too.
Yeah.
Awesome. But then I've seen like some DC movies, and just I don't know. I just feel like except for like maybe like the Wonder Woman movie that came out, but like all the Marvel stuff. Seems like there was like more digital stuff, like more effects, like kind of like more money available to put into the movie than like the DC stuff.
I mean, there could be multiple levels to that, in my opinion. I agree that I do think that the Marvel stuff does look more clean and polished, but I also feel like, to be honest, the DC stuff probably, as far as if you're talking about the DCU stuff, like the live action movies that have been coming out recently.
Right.
That stuff there's a ton of CG work that's gone into those movies. I mean, like when you watch even the fight scenes they go for, like if you watch like Batman versus Superman or something like that, right? Or even in the Superman movie, Man of Steel, like the fight scenes are all super like catastrophic. They destroy entire cities. And it's meant to be like a larger than life looking kind of fight scene, which you kind of get that with Marvel, but also not in the same way or not as destructive. Like for example, in I think it's the first.
First Marvel movie, or
no, not the first Marvel movie. The first Avengers movie.
Oh, okay.
They have that fight scene that's in New York,
right?
And and you can see all these aliens flying around New York, and the Hulk's like walking around, kind of smashing buildings or whatever. And that kind of destruction is like really small scale compared to what they were doing with the DC stuff as far as like the fight scene. Like they were destroying entire cities and skyscrapers in the DC movies. So there's a lot of CG that goes into those movies, in my opinion. But I feel like really it's more of a preparation thing. Like the Marvel stuff has been coming out for like it's been like 10 years or over, and I think DC was trying to rush to catch up with that stuff.
Gotcha.
Man. So they kind of forced.
That kind of makes sense. Yeah, it kind of makes sense because like there's a long streak of like all the Avenger movies and then the spin-offs from that, whether it be Captain America or Iron Man or whatever.
Right. Iron Man was the first one of those series, right?
Right, exactly.
It's like Iron Man and the Hulk were like 2 months apart.
Right. And then like all of a sudden it was like, it was Wonder Twin Powers activate. Like I was like, oh, it's DC. Yeah. Okay, By the way, how can you not have like the Wonder Twins? Like come on. That's like the superheroes that everyone loves to hate. You know what I mean?
Man.
No one wants to admit it that they love them, but the form of a glass of water. That.
I mean. You really have to be somebody who like grew up with that to appreciate that. I feel like that's not something you can just throw onto the masses.
I know, right? I know. They had the cartoon. What was the cartoon when they were at the Hall of Justice?
The Wonder Twins.
It was they were in it. It was the Super Friends.
Oh, from
Yeah.
that 70s cartoon?
Yeah, man, I grew up watching that, so.
That cartoon to me is actually really funny because like that's that weird place for Batman where they kind of got away from like Beach Boy Batman.
Right.
And there was no Dark Knight Batman, so
Right.
so Batman is kind of just like an asshole. That cartoon, it's pretty funny. He's like just like Playboy Batman.
Right. Well, it's
I haven't
funny.
seen it in a long time.
I know. It's funny. My son loves Legos, obviously.
Right.
So, we saw, Batman, the Lego movie, Lego Batman. Man, I've seen all the Batman movies. Blah blah. Blah. And no offense to like all the other, but Lego Batman is the best Batman ever.
It was
like
pretty
the
awesome.
lines
It's
and everything is
so
just
funny.
awesome.
Man, and that dude who does his voiceover is really good, man. That's the guy he was on the Drew Carey show.
Right, way back in the day.
Yeah, he's actually a really good Batman voiceover.
Yeah.
This is really good voice acting for that character.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. So, you got, all these comics. You said Spider-Man's your favorite?
Yeah, when I was a kid, man, growing up, Spider-Man and the Hulk were like my two favorite.
Okay.
And then Wolverine after the cartoon came out.
Cartoon?
The X-Men cartoon. The X-Men cartoon from the 90s. So
yes.
man.
That was...
He had that line. He would always be like, I go where I want to go. Like, that was so badass to me, man, when I was a kid. So, like,
That's
that was,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Spider-Man and the Hulk, though, were my two favorite. Just because Spider-Man was like, he always just seemed like kind of a relatable character.
Right.
Like he was just going through like regular people stuff. He almost didn't even want to be a superhero.
Right.
When you think about it, back in the day, he was like in college, and some of that stuff. And he's trying to go to school and whatever, and like
live life
and date a girl.
Right.
It's like, and it's just he can't seem to balance things right, which is
Right.
pretty interesting. Versus like, kind of like.
Batman, which is like so unrealistic, Mr. Billionaire, whatever. It's like as a kid, you can't really look up to that. You know what I mean?
Right, man. Well, I mean, it's cool, but it's just like his character, like it's almost like Bruce Wayne doesn't matter to Batman.
Right.
But you can't have Spider-Man without Peter Parker.
Right, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, as a kid growing up, it was like, plus Batman's always his storylines are always so submersive with him being Batman.
Right.
So there's like I said, the Bruce Wayne counterpart doesn't really matter that much.
Right.
But with Spider-Man, like, you really want to relate to his real life person as well as that person being the actual superhero. Like, you always separate like a Batman and a Bruce Wayne, or even like a Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Like, you know, like, and even though it's to a lesser extent these days, because they've done a lot of things to try to incorporate him or make them both kind of a cohesive unit, or separate them to have them be two separate things. Mm-hmm. But with like Peter Parker, man, like you see Peter Parker and the Spider-Man costume. You don't separate them, at least in my mind. So
I totally agree. I mean, I grew up, man. I love Spider-Man down to the point where it's like, I was learning all of his stats. So he was like 5'10" or something like that, or 5'9" or whatever, and then 100 and something pounds, and like all this stuff. I was like, man, I gotta grow. I want to be that tall, and I gotta weigh that much. And I'd pretend like I was Spider-Man playing by myself and stuff all the time. I remember that, man.
I feel like it was like at the end of one of those cartoons where they would have like they were trying to promote trading cards,
right?
And I think they would have like little CG people like
yes,
characters that have their stats next to them.
Right.
So, I feel like I remember that, but I could be making that up.
Exactly, totally.
But yeah, man.
Yeah, I grew up watching the Hulk as well, but I was watching the old TV show.
Oh, the Lou Ferrigno joint.
Yeah, right.
Man.
Yeah. Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Yeah, that shows the truth.
That was a great show. And at the end of every show, you see him walking down the road, thumbing it, trying to hitchhike and stuff.
Well, that's what made the Hulk like my second favorite superhero when I was like younger. It's like his whole thing was like he just wanted to be left alone. Like in later stuff, they kind of make him more inclusive and more of a team player.
Right, especially now with the Avenger movies,
stuff,
and I'm like, okay. I mean, he's a loner and he doesn't even like his power, but like in the movies, they kind of like make him sort of like his power, kind of.
Right, man.
Okay, sure, kind of change it up, whatever.
And I get it. It definitely makes way for some cool storyline stuff, whatever. But like the thing that was cool about him when I was younger was that he just wanted to be left alone, and people just would not stop messing with this guy. It's like, hey man, he's just every episode he's like on a desert road at the end. It's like,
exactly.
How they track this dude down? You know what I mean? Like,
and he's half naked. Like,
right.
Okay, like you could get away with that nowadays.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, back in the 70s, yeah, whatever. It's, it's a half-naked guy and he's hitchhiking. That's the norm.
Right.
It's like, now it's like, weirdo, speed off,
Yeah, nobody's picking that guy up.
Nope, no way.
Not one bit.
Yep. So, how old were you kind of when, like, you got into it? Or is this, like, from, like, as soon as you could read?
I mean, I don't really know how old I was when I first got into it, but it definitely just kind of staggered its way into my life. And I probably didn't recognize it as much until, like, when I was in, like, maybe, like, 9th or 10th grade. And I had met a group of guys who became, like, pretty much some of my closest friends.
Okay.
Or all my closest friends throughout life. And we were all, like, the same ilk of, like, we just loved, like, nerd stuff, video games, comic books, and anime. And it was also, like, at a very, like, impressionable time in our lives. Because we were, like, 14, 15 years old. So that's when I really kind of got hip to their actually being a culture. Because before, like, I mean, being a nerd is cool now. When I was a kid, man, I had to put book covers on my manga and stuff like that. I couldn't read that stuff in school. It was like it just was not cool to do that stuff.
Right, you get jumped. I mean, actually, back in my day, it's the same thing. It's like, it's like you put book covers on, on all this stuff you really wanted to read. So people would be like, oh yeah, that's just a school book. Yeah, so it's
exactly, man. And my thing was people just wanted to disrespect your stuff so much. Like I wasn't even worried about getting into like arguments or fights with other kids. I just wanted my books to be safe. Because we didn't have money like that. Those are treasures for me. It's like, oh man, this is dope. Right. So yeah, probably like when I met those guys, that was when I kind of got into it, and we were all like that's when I realized there was a culture for all this stuff, and like you could be kind of a part of this stuff, and then you start learning about other people who know about different things that you're interested in.
Gotcha.
And it's like, oh man, all right, cool. So that's probably when I realized. I was like really, really into that stuff.
Okay. Do you still have like your first comic book?
No, man.
Man.
I didn't really collect the books like that back in the day. Like my dad he had some like comic books when he was a kid, kind of laying around. So I would and they were all kind of like in really super worn condition because it was like in his closet or something like that. You just see them when you're like going through some stuff in the house.
Right.
But like I would just kind of read through those, and then that was also back in the day when like Newbury Comics was like kind of new, like when I was like younger. So you just go in there and just read comics when you could, that kind of stuff. But I didn't really have money like that to buy comics. And if I did have money, I was trying to get action figures, man. That's where it was for me, man. I used to love action figures and video games. Like I still have all my old video game consoles. I have my NES over there.
Wow.
My PS1, my Xbox, original Xbox, my Sega Saturn, my Dreamcast. So I mean, I was all about those things,
You got the Atari?
No, we didn't have one growing up, man. That was before. I think my dad got the NES because a friend of his was working at a video store.
Okay.
And he can get like a good deal on it. He would just get games for free, like a rental joint. So that's when my dad got the NES.
Okay.
But I think before that there was no reason for us to have it.
Gotcha.
If I have an Atari.
Man, I remember when the Atari 7800 came out. I like, I'm not a big gamer, but I like to play, some games, and it's predominantly sports stuff.
Right.
That's because I can't play sports save my life. So I'd rather, play it on video games.
The vicarious with the controller.
Exactly. So I got the 7800, and a friend of mine was visiting, and I had the basketball one, it was just so. I mean, you look at it now and you're like, oh my god, this is just awful. We stayed up, no lie. We stayed up the whole night until the next morning, and then it's like if you're sitting in front of the TV, like, for a long period of time, all of a sudden you look at your skin and it's like green and whatnot.
Right.
Just from the UV rays and all this stuff from the screen. And like we were done and we're looking at like, why are we green? Like in yellow and all this stuff. It was crazy.
Man, there's so many times where I appreciate like modern gaming culture because there's times where I'll be playing through a game and you may only have like, especially as an adult, you get like 2 hours of free time. Okay, I'm gonna spend an hour after that free time playing the game.
Right.
But back in the day, man, like you had to play through an entire game in one sitting. Like, like there was no save points.
No, there was no
nothing. So like, whenever I save a game, I'm like, yeah, thank the gods, thank the gaming gods for save points for.
Or like it saves it on its own, and you're like, oh, okay, great, cool, awesome.
Auto-save,
Auto-save. It's great. Yeah, I remember when. What was it? I think it was like one of the first Super Mario Brothers came out. Mm-hmm. And it was like there was no save.
Right.
So you had to play the whole thing completely through.
Top to bottom.
And so it was just like, man, like I remember people like, yeah, man, I finished the Mario thing. I was like, How long? Oh man, I was there for like 6-7 hours. I'm like, what?
Man,
Like that blew my mind.
bro. One of the worst feelings I've ever had, and probably in my whole life, was I was playing Super Mario Brothers, like the original Super Mario Brothers for NES, when I had a Duck Hunt joint.
Oh yeah.
I was playing that joint, man, and there's 8 worlds, right?
Okay.
And each world has like 4 like sub parts to it.
Okay.
So I get to like this is when I was a kid, before I knew about all the shortcuts, because now you know you can just like go certain places and warp to different worlds.
Okay.
When I was younger, I didn't know.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know.
Yeah. There's a bunch of shortcuts in the game, but I played through this game, and it was like World 7-1 or 7-2.
Okay.
And I've been playing for like 3 or 4 hours, which at that point is already.
See, like this story is, I know where this story is going, and it's like I'm about to cry. Like this is like,
Right, it's already like a feat, a miracle feat for your Nintendo to be on for that long.
Right.
So my mom was like, "Hey, look, it's dinner time," and I'm like, "But Mom, I'm almost done with this game." She's like, "Look, you need to get in here and eat this dinner now. It's dinner time." I was like, all right. She's like, turn the damn game off. I was like, no, can I leave it on? She's like, okay, leave it on. Just come out here and eat. So I go in there, I eat. I must have been eating for like 15, 20 minutes. My mom also she's from down south.
Okay.
She would cook. She was one of those parents that didn't like allow you to drink a beverage while you were eating, because she didn't want you to get full on the
Gotcha.
drink.
Yeah.
You'd eat all your dinner first. But she would also cook shit like cornbread,
Gotcha.
fried fish, or whatever.
Right.
Something that just make you so thirsty you can't finish it without something to drink. So I go in there. I must have been eating.
Plus, also it makes you take your time eating, like instead of wolfing it down.
Right.
And stuff,
You can't just throw that down.
Right.
It's so heavy. So so I get through the dinner, and I get back in there, and I go and I hit the pause button to unpause the game, and it goes.
No way.
And it just froze. And I was like, I've never, at that point in my life, I had never dedicated so much of myself to anything. All right? I was like, oh my gosh, bro.
Wow.
And you know what? I never beat that game on the NES console.
Really?
Yeah, I beat it like way later. Like I played like somebody had an emulator on their computer. I was like, oh, let me finally finish this game, you know?
Right.
But it's like, yeah.
That's crazy. Did you do so with the Nintendo? And you had to put the thing. You had to go. You had to blow it, right?
You had all the tactics.
All the then you had to like tap it a certain way.
You had to put it in there. You had to wiggle the cartridge. Man, you had to put the cartridge in the freezer.
Oh, I never heard that one.
Oh,
that's
time,
a new
man.
one. I never heard that one.
Rubbing alcohol.
Yep.
And then there was just like the patented blowing.
Right, the patented blow is my favorite, man.
Nintendo cheek like all day, bro. Just like so sore.
I know, right? I know. That was crazy. So. Going back to the comics for a sec, so obviously you're a big comic person, so you go to Comic-Con?
Yeah, I've gone to a few of them.
Now, California or I guess, so where, all I know is I know of the one in California, now that I live in Boston, and actually through you, knowing that there's like a Comic-Con in Boston.
Oh, right.
But for the longest time, I thought it was just Cali and that was it.
No, SDCC, which is San Diego Comic-Con,
is
like it's the biggest one. So I think at some point for a while, I don't know if this is still true or not, but it was like the largest convention like in this hemisphere period.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's still.
Have you ever gone?
No, I've never been.
Oh man, I'm shocked.
I mean, it's one of those things where I just never. When I was growing up, I never had the money for it, and then as an adult, you start trying to do other things, and it's like you forget about
life,
childhood things and stuff. Yeah,
Man, you gotta go.
Yeah, no. So me and a buddy of mine are planning to do. Don't judge me, but we're gonna do this year of the con, right? So we're just gonna pick out all of our favorite cons and some cons that we're just interested in going to, because there's like a ton of them.
Really?
I mean, there's cons for almost every state. You know what I mean? Like
really, I didn't know. I didn't realize. Okay.
Right, yeah, man. Like and some states are known for specific types of cons.
Okay.
So for example, like there's one for I'm into cosplay where I don't really wear cosplay, but I like to see it. I like to see what people dress up as and how they build their stuff. Because some people build armor and things like that.
So cosplay is costume play.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what that is. So they'll come dressed like their favorite anime character.
Gotcha. Which is like what you kind of like see in like maybe on TV shows or people who like for example, The Big Bang Theory, when they go over to Comic-Con in San Diego.
Exactly.
They're dressing up or whatever, or when you see it on TV or whatever, people actually dress up, and that's cosplay. Got it.
Quick side note: did you hear that HBO just bought all the rights to Big Bang Theory to have it exclusively? You know how much they paid for that?
Wow.
$1 billion. Bro.
Stop it.
$1 billion for the rights to that show, so it'll be aired on like only on HBO.
Wow.
I heard that on like something today on NPR.
That's crazy.
It's like I can't believe this show's worth that much money.
Man.
Yeah,
well,
I mean it's a funny show. But
it's a great show. I mean,
yeah.
I watched it. I loved it. I watched every single season all the way up to like, the series finale. Right? Yeah, I'll admit it. I shed a tear. Come on,
I respect that, man. I mean, that was a good show. I didn't finish it, but I definitely got it to like season 5 or something.
Yeah.
Like 5 or 6. But yeah, so in Atlanta they have a con called DrogoCon.
Okay.
And
now what's that?
It's I don't know what specific like genre it's for, but it's a huge con for cosplayers. So people come cosplayed as like more deep-seated nerd stuff. Like you might see cats coming as with cosplay from like World of Warcraft or something like that, or things like that. Where it's like the games may not have like readily recognizable characters to people who don't play the game or something like that. But people who play the game know who these guys are, and they'll don the armor or they'll create their own armor and things like that, which is pretty cool. And you'll see like some cool like like Marvel stuff. Like people have like really really awesome like Iron Man things and like helmets that open up and like
they go all out.
Yeah, it's like it's like real stuff. So I'm interested in seeing that stuff. So Atlanta has this con. It's like almost all cosplay stuff.
Okay.
So I would go to that one, and there's like New York has a really big Comic-Con in October. It's actually coming up next month.
Are you going to that one, or are you?
I may actually.
To, or?
I may now because at first I wasn't gonna go, but because I had a GB gig and it got canceled.
Oh, well then there you go.
I was like, literally I got the email like last week. Dope. So it's a 4-day con. So it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So maybe I can go for like Thursday, Friday, something like that. Or go Thursday or Friday, Saturday, or something like that. I might do that. And we were talking about going to a long time ago when I was like not fresh out of high school. I must have been like 20 or 19. But a bunch of my friends at this job I used to work at, we all went to Connecticut, which is a anime con in Connecticut. Okay. So we're gonna try to revisit that and do all these cool things. But the idea is to go to a whole bunch of cons.
Gotcha.
There's the video game con up here at PAX, which is the Penny Arcade Expo. The biggest one.
And where's that?
They do that here at the Boston Convention Center.
So it's video games.
Yeah, it's all video game stuff.
Wow.
It's dope, man. Yeah. I go there. These are literally all my PAX passes.
Oh man, I got all these passes
every year since I think I missed 2 years.
Man, this is like me and my NAMM passes.
Dude, right. These are all from different years. 2012, 2013. That's 2012 Saturday pass. But I mean, there's a whole bunch here. Yeah.
3-day pass.
2010. This is the first one. Good God. Yeah.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
So I mean, I go to all these things, and PAX has one they have like a PAX Prime in Texas. They have that's like their main one, and there's cons in other countries and stuff too. Things like that. So the idea is we're gonna take we're gonna take a whole year to like check out a bunch of different cons and try to
Gotcha.
go. Yeah.
So this is you and
me and a buddy, this guy Steve, who was one of that group of kids that I was talking about. That came up with him.
Okay. Now, where did you grow up?
Dorchester or Roxbury, Dorchester.
Really? You're from around here?
Yeah, born and raised.
Get out of here! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My first, I was born like right in family, like on Hemingway Street, like so. Right,
okay.
You know where that is? That Cappy still there?
I think so. I'll take your word. Maybe. I know of the Cappies. Right.
Yeah, it was right above the Cappies. Yeah.
Really?
Then I lived in JP for a couple of years. Then I lived in Roxbury for a few years. Then Dorchester, Malden, pretty much like everywhere.
Gotcha.
And then Norwood for a while, and then back to Dorchester.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool, man.
Are you from here?
No, I'm from Europe.
That's right. Yes, you were
born. I was born in Belgium.
Oh, Belgium.
Yeah, and I lived in Europe for 13 years until I came here. So
that's right.
So it's really different though because I mean, there's at the time Europe was kind of behind in a weird way, with getting all the comic book stuff and that type of stuff. You know what I mean?
I can
so
imagine.
I didn't really get into comic books until towards the later part of it, like like 13, 14. Someone said, "Oh, check this out," and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is cool." I mean, I have tons
for sure.
I have tons of comic books at home that I've collected over the years, and I actually took some of them to a store, to find out if they
some
were
appraisal stuff. Yeah.
appraisal stuff. He's like, this is kind of like the kind of stuff you're looking for. Some of this is good. I mean, honestly, all of these are worth pretty much what is written on the cover. Like it's
Right.
It's a nickel, it's a quarter, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, this might be worth $5. I was like, oh, okay.
right.
I'm like, I'm waiting for him to be like, yeah, this one's worth $20,000. I'm like, cool.
Spider-Man issue 1. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like actually, it was funny. So my, I guess my nephew-in-law. So my son Isaiah's cousin, he gave Isaiah started kind of getting into comic books a little bit. Mm-hmm. So he's 7 now, and his older cousin has like a bunch of comic books and gave him this comic book. Now I'm looking at this comic book. It's a Spider-Man comic book. I'm like, okay. I'm looking at it, I'm like, it says episode 1. I'm like, that can't be right. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, So I'm talking to Lil Errol's mom. I'm like, I don't know if he meant to give him this, but this comic book, and I went online and looked it up. Someone sold it for $1.2 million.
Yeah, Spider-Man issue 1 is like legendary. There's a documentary about Stan Lee and about Marvel stuff, and it opens up and then somebody has like an issue of Spider-Man 1 like in a vault in like a bank almost. And
what?
That's how well kept those joints are.
Wow.
that's actually.
So this
really
what? By
rare.
the way, just for you listeners, this was not volume 1.
This was his kid's name.
No, this was definitely not. I mean, it was volume 1, but it wasn't the real thing.
Gotcha. It
was
a re-release or reissue.
Yeah. It was. He went to go see a Spider-Man movie a long time ago, and I guess it was a special, and they were handing out these copies of volume 1.
Right.
So it's just a copy. It's not like one of the originals.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
So I freaked out at first. I was like, this could be worth a little bit of money. So.
Right.
Like, and Isaiah's looking at it like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, don't rip it, don't rip it,
wash
don't
your
rip
hands,
it.
man. What are you doing?
Where are the gloves? So,
yeah, man.
So you don't necessarily really have like a bunch of comics that you've collected.
Not superhero comics, no.
Okay.
I mean, I collected a lot of like Japanese comics, manga,
okay,
like that, which is all these books over here.
Okay.
Like, I've been collecting some of these books since I was like in high school, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are those types of books like compared to, let's say, Marvel and DC and type of stuff? So is that like anime or is that?
Yeah. So anime comes from manga. And
Okay.
So mangas are the comics. They usually start off from like they have like magazines like Shonen Jump or something like that, and they'll have like a weekly strip. And if it does well, or if it gets like a lot of attention, then they'll a company will pick it up, a publishing company, and they'll put it out in book form. Okay. And then if it does well as a book, then somebody will adapt it for an anime. That's how a lot of them are started. Not all of them. That's how the larger majority of them are started. Yeah.
Okay.
So like one of the more recently popular ones that ended a few years ago was Naruto. I don't know if you ever heard Naruto. It's a really popular one. But I've been reading that since I was like a sophomore in high school. It ended like 3 or 4 years ago or something.
Oh wow, cool.
So some of these you really collect for a long time.
Wow. Okay.
And some of these are projects where these guys are working on them for a long time. My favorite manga is this joint called Vagabond. I actually just bought a couple volumes, but it's on volume 37, I think, and I have volume 34. But the guy he's been writing it since like the late 80s.
Oh,
and
wow, okay.
He puts out it's like tri-annually it comes out, you know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes they're really hard to find, or right. If you really dig it, you just got to keep up with it.
Gotcha.
Like it's one of those situations where I hope he finishes it before he dies, kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there's a bunch like that. So I've been those are the ones I collected because also they were easier to keep because they were books. Like a manga is like a solid.
He's getting up. Watch out. Look out now. Look out now.
The real deal.
Here's the real deal.
The real deal.
The real deal.
If you were collecting like this is what a manga feels like, and you read it from left to right.
You read from left to right.
Yeah.
Now, is that they're from
Japan.
They're from Japan.
Yeah, so they instead of like having to redo all the artwork all over again, they just change the text and the bubbles.
Gotcha.
So you just gotta read it left to right. But yeah, man, like some of these.
Wow, there's really not that much.
This one is what I like about
wording in there. Like
this one is like all illustration. The illustration is so good, and that's one of the reasons why I caught up with this one. I really stuck with it because one of my favorite like eras of like manga stuff is like feudal Japan, that kind of era. know, and a lot of anime will take place in those kinds of settings.
Gotcha.
But this like really caught it for a reader. You know, it's like, man, because it looks so good. You can almost feel like, you know, like just what it would feel like to be around that time.
Gotcha.
You know? And these are all like, this is based on like, you know, kind of historical figures.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of, it's like the character's name is his name is, oh man, what's I forget what his original name is, but he ends up being Miyamoto Musashi, who is like a world famous sword maker.
Oh, okay.
Sword. He wrote like a legendary book about being a warrior and things like that.
Okay.
Did you ever watch Kill Bill?
Of course, yeah.
You know the swords they're talking about?
The samurai swords.
Yeah, those are Miyamoto. The Miyamotos.
Okay, gotcha. Yes. Got it.
Guy, you know?
Yeah, I walked in. I saw you have one. I have one also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have a sword at home. I'm keeping that for when either of my sons get older, and I have to put the sword down and say, look. That type of, you'll understand that. You're going to be a dad soon.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm super excited. I mean, I just got my Infinity Gauntlet, so I have a lightsaber. It's the lightsaber and Infinity Gauntlet. So if I need to protect somebody,
right.
take somebody down, I'm
like,
ready. You know what I'm saying?
Because you're having a
girl.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's right. Yeah. Take them out.
Yeah, man. I got all the nerve and want some smoke. You know what I'm saying? I got all the beef, man.
There you go. Yeah. Don't mess with Dominic's daughter. He's got that lightsaber up there, man. You don't want to mess with him.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, did you also do cartoons as well, or was it more of the reading thing?
Oh, cartoons all day. I mean, I still watch lots of cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you mean like superhero cartoons?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, so I watched all the original this is the original, but I watched all the the X-Men cartoons from the '90s, Spider-Man,
okay,
a whole block of cartoons. They were all kind of in the same universe. There was actually 4 of those cartoons. It was Spider-Man, which was based on the Amazing Spider-Man.
Right. Is that the one where because I think I watched that same one, and at one point he went to another world, and it was the Black Widow or something like that. That way. Yeah.
Madam Web. And
Madam Web. That's what it was. Yeah.
Different dimensions with a different Spider-Man.
Right. I know. It was funny because I got really into that, and I was watching it, and then all of a sudden it wasn't on anymore, and I'm like, what happened? Come on, how you gonna leave someone hanging like that?
Cable happened. And then they're like, no more network, no more regular TV for y'all. If you guys want to watch this, you gotta get cable. And it's
exactly.
Yeah.
So was there any particular of those cartoons that you really liked a lot?
Oh my God, the X-Men cartoon is one of the greatest cartoons of all time.
The '90s one, right?
The '90s one, yeah. I mean, there was some other good ones too. X-Men Evolution was a really good one.
Right.
I enjoyed that.
I think I watched the '90s one.
The '90s one was the greatest because it was so adult for it to be that kind of. It was
right. You felt like a little bit of a grown up as a kid.
Yeah, man. There was so much grit to the cartoon.
Right.
Too. And they covered all kinds of as you get older, you look back on it, man. They covered a lot of different issues, with the mutants kind of being racially oppressed almost because they're mutants.
Right.
And they were the whole premise of the cartoon, or the beginning half of it, was the government was trying to create a mutant registry. Right, so they're trying to round up all the mutants with the Sentinels,
right?
And put everybody's name on the registry and what their powers are, and put chips in them and track them and all that stuff like that. And they didn't want that to happen, right? The mutants didn't want it to go down like that. So it's this whole concept of and then they portray what the public looks like too, which is interesting because a lot of those cartoons, you just kind of get your protagonist and your antagonist, and you clash. But then because of the way the show was set up, where these mutants were trying to live amongst the people. Then they would have to incorporate this third party perspective of just from regular civilians, or either my daughter's not a mutant, but my daughter goes to school with a mutant,
right.
And so it's now this person, you get to see this person kind of act in fear of these mutants or whatever it is, which is not very different from how it is when I walk down the street with this beard on.
Right.
So it's right. You can kind of see it's kind of cool how they just kind of capture certain elements of certain.
For sure.
To make you feel a certain way.
Yeah, I remember watching it. There was also a lot of especially with Wolverine and what was her name?
Jean Grey?
No. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's not Storm. It's actually one of my favorite X-Men, where she takes off her glove and can take your power.
Oh, Rogue.
Rogue, right. like the kind of like the, father daughter kind of chemistry between them two.
Oh, I think you're thinking of Jubilee.
No, was it Jubilee? No.
Jubilee.
Was it? Yeah, it was Jubilee. Yes. In the cartoon it was Jubilee. Right.
She's a teenager. The way we're pick up in the very first episode, they pick her up, and then Wolverine takes her in, or she takes to him.
Right.
Kind of. Yeah.
Right. It's definitely that kind of family orientation, and then like Storm is this gorgeous African American woman just. Hear me roar type of thing, you know what I mean?
She had like the most epic voiceover.
Right. Oh yeah, it was
so cool.
It was awesome. I mean, she was, and so hot too. It was just like, oh my god, like, but yeah, and like Rogue was actually one of my favorites. I just loved how she was portrayed, and kind of like was a mutant, sort of didn't really want to be a mutant, but did kind of trying to find her way, which. Like you said, with the show, when we talk about it, it feels like it was so ahead of its time, because you look at life now, like you were saying, walking, down the street with your beard, I walk down the street with my wife, and it's just like people definitely look at us, and it's just imagine. I remember, hanging out. I remember once I got pulled over, and when I was playing with this hip hop band. And I'm the only white guy in there, but I'm driving, and flashed the light, and everyone was like, "Yo, thank God you're driving, because this would have been a totally different story." And it was. I mean, he's like, "Well, we're coming back from a gig," and but it's like really interesting with like that TV show where like there was a lot of like underlining stuff that, as an adult, when you go back and watch it, it's like. Oh wow! Oh okay! Oh wow! Oh wow! Okay!
Well, the interesting part to me about it is like when you're a kid, the cartoon is a standalone thing, right?
Right.
It's this whole world that's happening inside this box, that you're watching. Right. And as you get older, you realize that these are just people making up these storylines, and they're going through whatever it is they're going through, and that stuff comes out in their art. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like
like with us in our music.
Exactly.
Right.
So when you get old, when I got older, I was like, you look back on these things, you realize that these are people just trying to spread like an awareness about something through this show.
Right.
It's very interesting, because then you can also go back and watch other stuff where you watch like like there's like propaganda in these cartoons. Like for example, like one of the most offensive, but also offensively hilarious to me is Transformers, man. There's an episode, so it was like this cartoon's coming out during like the Gulf War and stuff like that.
Right.
And there's an episode, man, where the Transformers, the U.S. government's going to attack some kind of terrorist country, right?
Okay.
And the Transformers are supposed to help the government out.
Okay.
So the Transformers, they load up and into this big whatever vehicle, and they fly off to this country called Carbamia. Like literally the
Oh my god,
that's a kid's
awful.
cartoon, and the country's called Carbamia.
Wow.
And like it was like, but when you look back on those things, it's like it's very interesting to watch. Also, like how they would spin, like and use propaganda within these cartoons for certain things.
Right.
Some people trying to use that platform as a soapbox to teach kids about like like real life issues, and then some people using that platform as a soapbox to like get kids to be like more quote unquote patriotic or whatever.
Right. Well, hey, look at G.I. Joe. Yo, Joe,
Right. Right. Like, G.I. Joe is one of the number one platforms for propaganda as it was back in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny. Actually, I was a huge fan of the Transformers cartoon. But
I still love it,
but the older one, the one where Bumblebee's actually like a VW bug.
Right. Yeah.
And their hideout is in a cave.
It's in the side of that mountain.
Side of that mountain. Yeah. I mean, I love that one. Like, I was just like, I was a little kid watching that. I was like, this is awesome. This is so cool.
Man, it was awesome shows, man.
Yeah.
Those theme songs.
There was a cartoon that I got into, which I thought was cool because I was sort of like on the verge of like getting close to teenagery, and it was really adult, and like there was kind of like half naked chicks on. I was like, oh, this is cool. It was a cartoon, and definitely, Japanese or one of those like anime type things, and it was called. Well, in Europe, it was called Cobra. And it was this guy who was like oh man, what he was not a cop, but he was more of like a renegade, and like he, you know.
Was this based on the movie?
No.
It wasn't.
No. So what the cool thing was about it was that, and it took place like in space, like he could travel into space and stuff like that. Yeah, it took place in space, and then his left arm was a gun, but he had his hand, and he'd take his arm off, and it would like be a gun, and he would shoot it. Man, I gotta look that up. Because I'm sure there's an American name for it. But man, that show was. Yeah. I'll look it up. I'll let you know. But man, that was like a cool, like kind of adult-ish cartoon. That was like, oh, this is kind of cool. You know what I mean? As opposed to dealing with a lot of the kiddier cartoons. You know, like we would.
Pussycats or something.
Well, no, but even like the Justice League, like we were talking about the Super Friends, right?
Right.
And when the twin powers activate, that was kind of. I mean, it was great. It was cool. Don't get me wrong, but it was still kind of, kiddie-ish.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, some trivial stuff happening on the show.
Right.
Well, that Justice League cartoon from the '90s, though, my gosh, that is a good cartoon. Have you not watched that?
I don't think I've watched that.
You need to watch that.
Okay.
Cartoon. That cartoon is epic. That's in the top 5 greatest all time.
Really?
Yeah, it's
so. What
good.
is okay? So there you go. So let's go with that. What's the top 5 like? Let's go back. What's the top 5 comic books that you would say, like if someone says, "Oh man, I want to get into comic books," what are like the top 5 you would recommend for someone like starting off?
Are we talking about just superhero comics?
Just superhero about, yeah, whether it be DC, Marvel,
I guess I would have to know somebody's interests, but I would say one of the ones that's really interesting to me, and actually I haven't read all 3 of these comics yet, but and they're actually pretty old now too. But one of them is called The Irredeemable, and it's a superhero comic, but it's not like they're not using any mainstream superhero names.
Okay.
But pretty much the comic is like, what if Superman was just like a really negative dude, man?
Oh, okay.
And so there's this guy with all these Superman powers,
right?
And he just does really heinous and terrible things, and people are trying to stop him.
Wow. Okay.
That was pretty dope. Probably my favorite comic, like superhero comic to read, is World War Hulk. I really dig that one, which is the storyline is super dope. They even kind of touched on it. The precursor to World War Hulk is Planet Hulk.
Okay.
They kind of touched on it in the movies a little bit, where Planet Hulk is at this situation where the Hulk, pretty much there's like this like upper echelon of like people in the Marvel universe that are super smart, and like it's like Doctor Doom, Reed Richards, and all these guys, and Bruce Banner. I think Bruce Banner was supposed to be on it, and but they have this issue with him where pretty much all these great minds decide that the Hulk is too powerful to be on Earth.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they kind of trick him. They get him in this rocket and they shoot him off into space.
Got it.
And then for Planet Hulk, that rocket lands on this planet. It's like a gladiator type planet. It's run.
That's like kind of part of like the Thor movie.
Exactly. They took some of that from that.
Okay.
But really, so nobody meets him out. So in the comic book, there's no Thor. Nobody meets him out there. But what he does is he fights his way up the ranks, because there's a bunch of like really powerful guys there.
Gotcha.
And he ends up overthrowing the entire government, becomes king of this planet.
Oh, okay.
Gets married, has kids, all this cool stuff.
Okay.
He's got a squad, his homies that were like with him when he was in the gladiator trenches,
Wow. Okay.
And so they're running stuff, and then this ship that he got sent out there on, this is like we're talking a decade later,
right?
Whatever. It blows up. It was supposed to be off in the middle of nowhere and explode in space and
gotcha.
and dispose of the Hulk somehow. But it crashed into this planet. So now it finally blows up and it destroys the entire planet.
Wow.
Kills his wife, his kids, all this stuff. And then, this leads to World War Hulk, where pretty much him and all his homies are like, well, we're going to get on this ship and we're going to
find out who did it.
We're going to go back to Earth and just kick ass. So pretty much the whole thing is about him coming to Earth and just like waging war on pretty much all of our favorite superheroes.
Wow, okay, that's different.
Everybody. Yeah, it's really dope.
Okay.
But that's one of my favorites, and it's cool because it's kind of a standalone. Like you don't have to read Planet Hulk to get the gist of it,
gotcha.
That kind of thing. But and it's like it's just one. I have it up there. It's just one issue or
gotcha.
One volume. But I would definitely recommend that one.
What's like one more? Give me one more. Like
One more.
Yeah. Uh-oh, he's getting up again. Now he's got to get...
I have my favorite stuff up here.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. He's got it.
The Punisher.
Oh, the Punisher. Okay.
Welcome Back, Frank is one of the greatest, because it's just so unnecessarily like over the top. Like,
okay.
You know, so the Punisher, you know, he's known for being like, he's not a good guy, he's not a bad guy, whatever, that kind of thing. And at some point they kill his character off. You know, it's,
okay.
You know, at the end of one of the runs, I don't really know which comic he dies in, but he doesn't really die. He dies. He kind of goes to heaven or goes to hell, goes somewhere and gets sent back.
Okay.
And then when he gets sent back, he just pretty much just takes it out on New York, you know, on all New York's crime.
Okay.
So the comic book opens up and he's just like he's like. That within the first 3 or 4 panels, he's got some mobster like over the side of the building by his ankles, and he just drops him off.
Wow.
Kind of thing, you know? And it sparks this whole war he has with this big mob family in New York.
Okay.
But it's just a really good comic. It's just really fun to read. You know, like he does all kinds of over the top stuff. He punches the bear in the face. You know, like, it's like all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it's a really good comic. So
okay. Okay. Well, it's funny you mentioned the Punisher, which kind of like makes me think and lead me to my next thing. What do you think of? Or what did you think? Because a lot of them are ending of all the Netflix superhero stuff that they did.
I dug a lot of that stuff, man. I mean, the only reason it's ending is because Disney just wanted to have the rights to the characters out on any other platforms right now. They have their own streaming service coming up. Whatever.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not going to continue those shows, I doubt, anyways.
Right.
But I'm sure they just want to keep the rights to them, so they're
gotcha.
make money off it. But I dug a lot of those shows, man. Daredevil season 1 is still the best one. In my opinion,
okay.
But I mean, the first time I saw that, man, like the choreography for the fight scenes was amazing.
Right.
You know, like,
Definitely.
And it was, you know, it's just like a great take on the characters. You know, they made the characters very likable. You know.
Right. Yes.
I guess my least favorite is probably the first season of Iron Fist, which is probably the universal opinion.
Okay.
Because Iron Fist, I
actually didn't even watch Iron Fist. I've watched, obviously Daredevil. I didn't watch Punisher.
You should watch Punisher.
Yeah. Okay. I watched Luke Cage.
Of course, which was awesome. I wish Season
that had.
Season 1 was awesome. Season 2 was decent.
Season 2 was different, and I was like, I don't know.
Season 1 was awesome.
Yeah, Season 1 was awesome for sure. Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
I actually liked those.
I haven't watched Season 3 yet.
I watched it. I'm not gonna spoil it for you.
I'll get on. I've been slacking. I'm still on Season 2 of The Punisher. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was like, they have one season that's kind of based on him. Actually, the one season of Daredevil where he's in, they take a big scene from this comic book.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that scene where where they're on that roof and Daredevil's got that gun and he's about to shoot him?
Right. Yes.
That's from this book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. That's cool. There was one. They only did it. I think they only did one season of it. When they combined all 4 of them.
Yeah, the Defenders.
Right, and I actually kind of liked that. It was actually kind of cool. It was a cool dynamic of all the characters, and they touched on a lot of different stuff, and it was kind of brought all the villains together, but separate in a different way, and it was like a lot of underlying stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was a nice way to connect some of the storylines and like also give some of the other characters some substance. Because I mean, some of these characters have different backgrounds too that you don't get a chance to see. Mm-hmm. Like Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and like in the Justice League kind of world, they're like kind of like not good guys or bad guys. They're heroes for hire. They take on whatever job. They'll either rob a bank or save somebody's life, whatever. But but they're always a duo, almost always a duo in the cartoons and the comics. So it's interesting to see them like not together in these shows. And Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, the comic books, they have a kid. They're married in the comics.
Oh, okay, got it.
So there's a bunch of different things that they that I thought they were gonna try to lead up to with like all the kind of mixing and stuff.
Right.
But I guess it just kind of got shut down.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm sure when like you were saying with with Disney kind of starting to own the rights and kind of shutting stuff down, they kind of had to take the shows and kind of put a period at the end of it, as opposed to kind of leaving it open. Unfortunately,
exactly.
It's like we kind of gotta reel it back and put the stamp on it because this is done. You know,
Yeah.
which kind of sucks, but
It's a shame, but sometimes it can also be a good thing. Cause you ever watch any of the CW DC shows?
yeah, of course.
Like
I'm a
Flash and stuff like
huge
that?
Flash
Yeah,
one,
man.
and that I love it, but I feel like they're getting close to jumping the shark.
Well, they definitely. A lot of those shows go on for too long, and it kind of loses
Right.
the magic a little bit. Like
Right.
that happened with Arrow. Arrow was, in my opinion, was really dope for the first like 3 seasons, and it kind of like started to taper off.
Yeah.
But it got to like season 9 or 8 or something like that. It was a long run. It just ended last year.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I think Flash is going to end.
I think so too.
The characters are all like leaving. Like Cisco doesn't want to be on the show anymore.
Oh, okay. So that's been on for what, 6 years, 7 years?
I think season 7 just finished. I think, or the one that's coming
They're
out.
coming up as season 6 or 7, right?
I think it's 7. I mean, my only beef with the show is that it's always like other speedsters that are like end up being the villains almost all the time, except for like that one season with the one before the one that just ended.
Oh, okay.
With the mind control.
Right, yeah.
He's like the only guy that hasn't been a speedster. Everybody else has been like,
got like the main villain, right? There's been
yeah.
little villains here and there.
Of course, they do the villain of the week thing, whatever.
Right.
But like that's my only beef with the show. But also like, the show is starting to lose its magic because it's been going on for so long. Plus
Right.
People are like leaving the show. Like, dude, Wally.
Yeah, he left. Right, Kid Flash.
Yeah, he became he's transgender now.
Oh, okay.
That's what I read. Cause I was wondering why he was
really?
leaving the show. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He started coming on the show less and less, but he was still on the show.
Right.
I'm like, what's going on with this? Is his contract almost? Is he going to do something else?
Right.
And I guess he was just changing gender, and I guess it was something different for him.
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
How he was doing his thing,
Oh, neat. Oh, cool. Yeah, I know he quote unquote went to another dimension or another world. To be with his go with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right. Who were both speedsters, which was just like.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, there was one season when I felt like everyone on Team Flash became was a speedster. I'm like, wait, they're gonna make Cisco a speedster too? Like,
right. They were just doing that thing with the multiple dimensions.
Right.
A lot. I mean, that's a cool concept, but like once it gets out of hand, it just goes because there's just so many possibilities, and it's like you can. Oh, we have a million different dimensions or an infinite amount of dimensions, infinite amount of Earths, so we can kill this character as many times as we want to and then bring him back, that kind of stuff, and it can be like a lot.
Yeah. Cool, man. Awesome. Well, I'm excited that we got to hang and get to know more about your, beyond the music type of life, man.
I appreciate the chat, man. This is really cool, man.
Yeah, man. Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, yeah, beyond the music, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks, Dom.
Zeke Martin over here, man, being the host. The most. You go, man.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Later.